Goo Goo Gaga. Y'all remember Boss Baby? The movie about the kid whose brother is a cutthroat CEO that was so mediocre the only people who'd touch it after 1 month were 3 a.m. channels? Guess what came out last month? As much as I'd love to say the Boss Baby finally came out of the closet and is living a happy life with his baby husband, no, they came out with a sequel. Now, I feel the need to establish that I genuinely enjoyed the original Boss Baby. Like, yeah, it was dumb. I enjoyed it in that kind of turn your brain off, this is a stupid movie, but it's fun to watch kind of way, right? So the original Boss Baby was paced pretty well. It had this charming premise that stayed fresh for most of the movie, and it had some genuine emotional moments and some genuine moments of really cool animation. I can see why people don't like it, but personally I'm in the camp of considering it a dumb but fun movie. I can't say that about the sequel, so join me as I talk about every single little stinky little crumb of the Boss Baby sequel and how it's not only batshit insane, but it broke the entire world building of the first movie. Yeah, there was world building. The original Boss Baby belongs to a genre that I like to call baby horror. Baby horror basically is characterized by when baby do something baby not supposed to do. Boss Baby's a pretty interesting take on baby horror, I think, because instead of the baby being some kind of traditional monster like an alien or a, oh no, Bigfoot out my coochie, you know, the baby is the realest kind of monster. He's a CEO and you bet your fucking diaper he exploits the working class. Another pretty consistent part of baby horror is that the babies aren't necessarily human. Now in Boss Baby, we have a CEO from baby heaven. So yeah, I'd say that's like double for not being human. I cannot stress this enough, okay? The Boss Baby babies aren't human babies. Alright, they have their own baby society in the sky with its own rules, poorly elaborated as they are. So, where does the Boss Baby race come from? Why do they need power from the human world? Why did they take the form of babies? Do they die? We may never know. What we do know is that they are not human. And they have their own completely separate society. And that's that, no more explaining, bitch, it's Boss Baby! The plot of the Boss Baby, the first one, revolves around Tim. He's this only child, and one day this baby just shows up at his house. Like there's a car, it drives up, and the baby walks out. He's like, oh, goo goo gaga, I'm a fucking baby, you know? Only Tim's parents are acting like they birthed this baby, and this baby's been here the entire time. And Tim naturally is like, hey, what the fuck, you know? And it doesn't help that the baby is now receiving all of the attention. And so Tim gets really mad at the baby, and because he's 7, he's like, if I interrogate this baby will leave. That's what babies do. And he is right. Because the Boss Baby is a Boss Baby and it reveals that to him. And the Boss Baby's like, yeah, you're right. I'm a Boss Baby. I'm not a human. I'll leave if I finish my mission. And Tim's like, what the hell's your mission? And the Boss Baby's like, okay, so essentially, babies are losing the popularity contest to puppies. And if people don't start thinking babies are cuter than puppies again real soon, there's gonna be no more babies because everyone's gonna have puppies. This reminds me of like those Facebook posts where people get real angry that you carry a dog in a stroller when it's tired, and you call your dog like my fur baby or whatever. They're like, that's not a baby, you didn't pull it out of your... Okay. And the Boss Baby says, you know, yeah, I come from a place called Babycore, and there we're figuring out how to fight the dogs and how to make babies great again. And Tim is like, okay, I'll help you if you go away. And the Boss Baby's like, we're real fucking worried lately about the dogs, about Puppy Co. This is our rival business, Puppy Co., who invents puppies, I guess, because they're ready to drop a new breed of dog. And we can't just suck it up and drop a new breed of baby because that's unethical. And so Tim's like, yeah, okay, I'll help you. You know, and they sneak over to a PuppyCo meeting. They find the CEO of PuppyCo. The CEO of PuppyCo used to be a boss baby. He's a boss baby that stayed on Earth and grew up, and now he has a resentment for Baby Corps, and he's trying to, I guess, eliminate babies. And so Tim and the boss baby beat the CEO. They throw him into this pit of like de-aging goo that he was using to create an immortal puppy. Like, I feel like there's more important things we should be focusing on than the boss babies if they have the key to immortality. So they put the PuppyCo CEO into the de-aging goo, and he's a baby again. He can't do any harm and make any more dogs because he's a baby, and babies can't be CEOs. Even though that's like the whole plot of the movie, is that a baby's a CEO, whatever. And so Tim is like, fucking finally! Are you gonna leave yet? And the baby's like, no! I've decided to stay! I'm your brother now! And that's how the first movie ends. The boss baby gets a name. His name is Ted. He stays. He grows up with Tim. Sweet story, okay? Like, it ends with this really nice scene. Didn't need a sequel. Now, over the course of the first boss baby, we learn a bit of important lore about the boss baby race. There's lore, yeah. And it'll be important when we look at the second movie. So first of all, the boss babies need a special formula to remain as boss babies. If they don't drink this formula, they'll turn into normal babies, and they'll age, and they'll grow like normal humans do. 2, there's magical pacifiers that if you suck on them, they allow anyone, not just boss babies, to astral project to Baby Corps. 3, either a boss baby is able to somewhat teach babies intelligence and recruit them into its army, or they've sent down planted boss babies at multiple houses, because there's babies that help Tim and Ted with their quest. And either one of those options is terrifying. I watched The Boss Baby 2, the second one, a day after it came out in a Discord call with 6 other people. And by the time the movie was over, it was me and 2 other people. So if that doesn't give you an idea of what this is gonna be like, I don't know what will. Here are some reviews from the brave soldiers who sat through The Boss Baby 2 with me. Lots of strangely sexual energy. I had to tap out halfway through. Unpleasant implications. Feminist messaging where the women are only on screen 1/6 of the time. Girl boss! I haven't seen it. Utterly dystopian. I think the boss baby is a communist for choosing family and friends over work. Kinky. 2 days after my initial watch, I still couldn't get The Boss Baby 2, the second one, out of my head. It was haunting my every waking moment. I knew what I had to do. So after telling my friends to pick a god and pray for me, I grabbed my notepad and I sat down to watch it again. So the movie opens with this little montage about Tim growing up, and we're shown the future forms of all the characters from the first film. Tim is now a stay-at-home dad. He's married to this lady Carol, who's like apparently the CEO of Bread. We never know exactly what she does, they never tell us, but she makes bread of some sort, and she makes enough money also to rent a house in the suburbs that's 2 stories, or own it even. So, yeah, she's probably pretty fucking high up in the bread world, I don't know what to tell you. It's probably also bad that I was genuinely shocked that she wasn't white. When your cast of characters is so pale that I see a named character of color and I go, that's weird, I wasn't expecting that. You probably should revise your movie. Tim and Carol have 2 kids, Tabitha and Tina. Tina's a baby with an ungodly amount of hair for her age, and Tabitha is their 7-year-old daughter who is a super genius, and she's going to super genius private school. And that whole school plot is going to be really fucking important later. So Ted, the original boss baby, is now a CEO in real life, and he doesn't talk to his family, but he sends them really expensive things, like that's a good substitute. And apparently it is, because Tabitha fucking loves him. All the other babies from the original are also there. So like if you remember the big baby's the mayor now. If you remember the triplets, they're cops now, which is like, oh, maybe making the only other named characters of color cops maybe wasn't the best choice. But I guess the movie's already out, so oh, whatever, diversity win. Now when I first watched the movie, I thought it took place maybe 20 to 30 years in the future, but upon checking the wiki, I found out it takes place 40 years in the future. which means it's 2057 in this movie, and they do absolutely nothing with that. To be fair, it really isn't easy to tell when this movie's supposed to take place, because A, like I said, everything looks the same as it does right now, and B, Tim looks like he's simultaneously 47 and 7 years old. And he's not even the worst offender. Absolutely none of the adult characters in this movie look like normal adults, except for, like, maybe Carol. Maybe. So Tim's still super fixated on his childhood from when he was 7 from the first movie, like 40 years later. And goddamn, does he make sure his entire family knows this. We get this one scene where Tabitha's doing her homework, and next to her, Tim's building this, like, Pepsi and Mentos volcano, which is, like, whatever, you know, the man's entertaining himself. But he explodes it, and it gets on her homework. And reasonably, she gets pissed at him, and she's like, Dad, what the hell? And he's like, I just want to make sure that your childhood doesn't go by too fast. Yeah, no one said anything about this. The girl's doing homework. So reasonably, she's pissed. Tabitha storms up to her room. Tim follows her. And he's all like, oh, I'm sorry, my childhood was over so quickly. I don't want your childhood to be like that too. And Tabitha's all, you sent me to a private school. And, you know, she kind of wistfully traces her hand over her framed photo of Ted, which is a little weird, but like, whatever. He also has this good night song he sings her, which is like, oh God. Oh, it's awful. It's terrible. I'll just play it. You'll see it.
Mama's gonna kiss you. Mama's gonna kiss you.
Good night song with your dad.
What?
So Tim's all pissed because his daughter loves his brother more than him, and he goes up to skulk in the attic, and we see all his childhood memorabilia in his attic, like the old beds up there and shit. I don't know, man. Definitely not a healthy fixation to have. And you know who's also there? Wizzy from the first movie. You know, the little talking wizard. Oh, wake up, halflings, it's 3 a.m. Yeah, I don't fucking remember him either, but apparently he was a big part of the first movie. And Wizzy gets really pissed at Tim for, like, leaving him in a state of disrepair or whatever, and I guess it's kind of an allegory for Tim's own relationship with his brother or something. And it was at this point when a friend of mine posed the question of, does Tim have undiagnosed and untreated schizophrenia? And I don't feel confident to answer that, because I don't have schizophrenia, and I'm not a licensed doctor, and I can't tell you that. But I had to sit through 4 hours of this movie, so I might as well become a doctor to find out at this point. Tim's conversation with Wizzy is interrupted when he hears his phone go off, and he's like, oh shit, where's my phone? He follows it downstairs, you know, the noise, and it turns out it's coming from Tina's room. There's this little baby phone, you know, those baby phone toys. I'll throw one up. The baby phone toys. And it turns out it's coming from Tina's room. There's this little baby phone toy, and he picks it up, and he's like, hello? And of course, nothing's there, you know. And he puts it down, and he's like, oh, all right. And so he finds his phone off in the corner of the room, and he goes to pick it up, and as he's leaving, he pulls down the blankets of Tina's crib to check on Tina, and she's not there. There's this surveillance teddy bear in her place. And so Tim, understandably, is like, what the hell is this? You know, and he's all down looking at it. And so behind him, we can see this like, scuttling shadow, and then Tina fucking jumps him. Because she's a boss baby too, bitch. Now, I've not known peace since Tina opened her stupid little baby mouth to talk. Now, if Alec Baldwin's voice acting as Ted is, you know, kind of funny in a sort of submersive way, then Amy Sedaris, like, is just straight up unnerving. You know, despite this baby being a year old, I've met several middle-aged women who work in real estate that sound exactly like her. Anyway, Tina tells Tim that she needs him for a special mission. Tim gets, God, just unreasonably hyped for this. And he gets a lot less hyped once Tina tells him that the special mission is, hey, call Ted. He's gonna help me instead. Then Tim gets real pissed at her. And Tim says, no, I'm not gonna call Ted. If you want help, you're gonna get it from me, because I hate my brother for an unspecified reason we never specified in the movie. And he storms out of the room. And so Tina picks up her little baby phone, and surprise, surprise, it's actually a real phone. And she holds the surveillance bear up to it. And the surveillance bear apparently recorded Tim. And so she plays a fake message from the surveillance bear to summon Ted. And it works. And so the next morning, Ted arrives, and Carol's like a little bit surprised to see him, but Tim is absolutely like flabbergasted. He's like, why the hell are you here? Another thing about Tim and Ted's relationship is we never figure out why it's so strained. Like, Ted could have drank Tim's yogurt while he was on a run, or Ted could have killed a man. And we don't know which one it is because they never tell us. So there's this awkward scene where Tim's like, I didn't call you, and Ted's like, oh yeah you did. And they have this back and forth, and Tim ends up saying, oh, I butt dialed you while I was asleep. And they repeat that, and it's like, how do you do that? You know, it's just an excuse to say butt like 5 times, and all the little kids in the theater will, he said butt! And for some reason, Carol buys this, and Tim kind of pulls Ted away, and he's like, what the hell are you doing here? You know, he has real resentment in his voice. He pulls Ted over into the kitchen, and he's like, listen to me. My daughter's a boss baby. And Ted has forgotten all about being a boss baby because when he sacrificed being a boss baby to live as a member of the Templeton family, he sacrificed his memories of baby core also. And so Ted's like, you're fucking crazy. You're having delusions. I can get you a doctor. And Tim, oh my god, Tim pulls out the magic pacifier and he tells Ted to suck it. And this leads to a really unfortunate sequence of audio.
Suck it, Ted!
I beg your pardon? You suck. No, Tim, you suck.
Tina's in the room with them too, and eventually she gets tired of them fighting back and forth, and she pulls out 2 magic pacifiers and she sticks them in their mouths and she's like, no, you can both suck it! And they teleport, they astral project up to Baby Core. And while they're there, you know, Ted sees this big golden statue of him as the boss baby and he's like, oh, I remember that now! And we get for like 5 seconds this really cute gag of like they're in an elevator and Tim and Ted are hanging out at the bottom of the elevator because they're too tall and everyone else is baby sized, and it's like, aha, sensible chuckle, you know? And unfortunately that's ruined like immediately when we get thrown to the next scene and Tina explains what her problem is. So Tina walks up to her group of baby scientists and she says, hey, play the thing! And they play the commercial for the Acorn Institute, which is the school that Tabitha's going to. And it's this super school designed to make your children real smart. But Tina's like, I think that they're using this to give babies superhuman intelligence, and nobody questions it. And so that's the mission, is to stop the Acorn Institute. And so narrating that commercial too is the headmaster, and he's this super creepy man played by Jeff Goldblum, and like the moment you see him, you know he's gonna be the villain. It's one of those movies. It's one of those villains. He has, like, you know King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph? He has the vibes of King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph, but like bad. So in order to sneak in, Tim and Ted are gonna have to be babies again. And Tina hands them this formula. She's like, alright, this will transform you into a baby for 48 hours. So they take it, there's this whole transformation scene, and it's backed by, I shit you not, the time warp. Now, if there's anything I was expecting to be referenced in The Boss Baby, it wouldn't be cult classic evil and fucked up radically queer alien sex musical Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I guess we're doing that. So Tim and Ted stay the night in the attic, and in the morning they're about to leave for the school, but it turns out, oh no, it's daylight savings and they're late for the bus. And so they kind of have to camp out in the house until they can figure a way to get to the school. And as Carol is leaving the house, she calls up Tim, and she's like, hey, where are you? And Tim's like, oh, I went on a brother bonding trip with my brother. And Carol's like, what the fuck, man? It's the day before Christmas Eve. Did I mention it's the day before Christmas Eve? Because Tim is gonna miss Christmas with his family to go play Baby Spy. And so after Carol and Tabitha leave for school, Tim and Ted get out of the house, and Ted whistles and he calls upon this pony that he had given Tabitha as a birthday present. The pony's name is Precious. Now when he whistled and called this pony, like, the scene here is near identical to in BioShock Infinite when Comstock calls Songbird down, like the whistle song, the godly ray of sunlight. It's all there.
Or accelerators.
Do you know what that looks like?
I don't know.
Help me find it! Elizabeth!
And so there's this chase scene on Precious. Oh, they're trying to get to school in time. Oh no. They crash through several buildings. They start a fire. They show a clip from Spirit on screen, which is like, you know, cool. Nice of you to remind us we could be watching a better horse movie right now. Ted says he's been to jail before.
Alarm, bastard, Tim. I ain't going back to the clink.
So somehow Tim and Ted get to the Acorn Institute without being arrested, and Tim expresses some shockingly anti-gay ideals. Like, he walks up to this building, it's all dressed in rainbow, it's all colorful, and he's like, this place looks evil. Oh my god. So Tim gets sent to school with all the elementary school kids, and Ted gets sent to a playroom with all the babies. When they're entering the Acorn Institute, Armstrong's over the intercom, and he makes a reference to beloved musical Cabaret. And like,
Willkommen. Bienvenue.
wow. If there's two things that fit together, it's the Boss Baby 2 family business and cabaret. So Ted immediately incites this baby revolution in the playpen. And there's a lot of Shawshank references, which is like, okay, that's gonna fly over every single kid in the audience's head. And meanwhile, Tim is getting the absolute shit bullied out of him in his little elementary school classroom by this kid Nathan, who somehow moves and emotes like Sid from Toy Story and Mort from Madagascar at the same time. And Tabitha notices he's being bullied, and she's like, here, you can have my seat, you know? And Tim looks at her in this way that, like, of course for him, it's a father being proud of his daughter, you know? It's like, wow, I can't believe how much she's grown. But to everyone else, it's like, oh, no. Oh, there's some implications here I don't like. Armstrong doesn't teach class in person, by the way. No, class is taught by this robot that has his face on it, and it has a bunch of pre-recorded phrases that it's capable of splicing into sentences to talk with the students in real time, which is like, if Armstrong is this much of an AI prodigy, why the hell is he trying to do something with babies? You've already got something going on there, dude. And so Tim, when he finds out Armstrong isn't teaching the class in person, he's like, oh man, the only way I'm gonna get to see Armstrong is if I get myself sent to the principal's office. So he goes into the bathroom and he draws all the tattoos on his arm and beard on his face. So Tim walks out of the bathroom and he's got Sharpie all over him. He's got his shirt untucked. Oh no, you know? And he makes this big ruckus and he's like, all right, just take me to the principal's office then, you stupid bitch. The Armstrong robot comes up to him and it's like, no. And it sends him to something that they call the box instead. Everyone in class is terrified of the box. And when we get there, we'll find out why, and we'll also find out that it isn't shaped like a box, which annoys me to no end. So they take Tim to the box, and it's this solitary room, and it has a song playing on loop, like calming music. It has ocean noises, it has like plants on the walls, you know, but it's completely solitary, and it's really small. And I gotta point out, too, that the box is a legitimate tactic that people use in schools to try and make kids with learning disabilities less distracted. And like, you know, who would have guessed that wouldn't work? It only makes them traumatized. But yeah, keep in mind that that's a real thing that's legitimately bad they're showing there. So while Tim is stuck in the box, Ted has managed to take his baby rebellion outside of the playroom. And he's snuck all the way over to Armstrong's office. And as he sneaks into Armstrong's office, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out this bug that he's meant to plant so that he can listen into Armstrong's, you know, evil plan or whatever. And Armstrong appears behind him. And this is the scene. Like, if I had to pinpoint one scene, this is the scene where this movie goes off the fucking rails. Armstrong reveals that he is a baby who is piloting a mech suit to look like an adult man so he can educate babies and take over the earth to prevent global warming. I couldn't make this up if I tried. He recognizes Ted's power and attempts to bring Ted to his side. Like, he takes Ted to this meeting of what I can only describe as, like, baby UN. And here Armstrong reveals his grand plan. And his grand plan is that he taught babies to code. Armstrong is funding the school with an app store empire of, you know, cute little apps that are all written by fucking babies that he taught to code. I wish I was making this up. I wish this movie, And so with that wonderful revelation, the school day ends. And so as Tim and Ted are leaving school, they meet up with Tabitha. And Tabitha's like, hey, come home with me. We can have a play date, you know? And Carol's like, I'm not sure, man. We're kind of busy. We have Christmas to prepare for and all that. And then Tim says, my parents abandoned me, and I live at home alone. And of course, Carol takes him after that. And this is the part where Tim gets babysat by his own wife. And I feel like if Tim really wanted to get babysat by his own wife, he didn't really need to turn into a kid. He probably could have just pulled her aside and had that conversation in private. He also insists that his name is Marcos Lightspeed, and I feel like as one of the only characters of color in this movie, Carol should be able to tell this kid's name sure as hell isn't Marcos fucking Lightspeed. Also, Tim's parents show up and they don't recognize him, so like, that's fun. Once they get home, Tim follows Tabitha into her room. where Tabitha admits to him that she's actually really nervous about singing a solo in tomorrow's big Christmas Eve performance at the Acorn Institute. And so Tim, being her dad, is really sad about this, and he drags her into this inspirational musical number that looks straight off a billion surprise toys. Like, if you dubbed this over with some Russian Kids Bop or whatever and told me it was from a nursery rhyme on YouTube Kids, I'd believe you 100%. Also during this song, Tabitha sings the opening notes to Angel Eyes by ABBA. And I think when I heard that, my eyes receded back into my fucking skull.
Look into his baby eyes. One look and you're hypnotized. He'll take your heart and then you'll pay the price. Look into his baby eyes. You'll think you're in paradise.
So when Tim gets back from singing, he gets in a big fucking fight with Ted. And Tina sits there watching this and she's like, oh no, the plan's gonna go to hell. And she pulls this out of her ass that BabyCore pulled out of the mission. So now Tim and Ted are the only ones left who can complete it. And this gets them to stop fighting. And then the next day we fucking finally get to the holiday performance. Armstrong walks on stage to present the performance. And he says to the parents, hey, you should take photos of your kids with this specialized app called Cutie Snap. Now, if you're living in the world of the Boss Baby, you're freaking the hell out because that's the app that's meant to take over the world that the baby's coded. But if you're anyone else, you're going, what the hell's Cutie Snap? Because it was mentioned exactly one time before this in passing.
To keeper.
Oh, so cute. What's the app called?
It's called Cutie Snap.
The performance begins, and we are treated to one more musical number sung by a child actor who is clearly very, very nervous to be singing a musical number. All the while backstage, Tim and Ted are fighting to reach the switch that'll turn off the power and still look like they're not doing anything suspicious. Eventually they do get there to pull it, but they're stopped by ninja babies. So, you know, I guess Armstrong's also capable of teaching babies years worth of karate talent. And the ninja babies carry Tim and Ted back to the box. And so for a few seconds they're just sitting in the box and you're like, this is the least threatening climax I've ever seen. And then something fucking nuts happens, man. The box starts to fill with water. Armstrong is going to fucking drown them. So you get this scene where as Tabitha's singing her little childish little non-singer heart out, it's cutting back and forth between her, you know, fantastical performance and Tim and Ted actually drowning. And as the water's filling, it's like it's almost at the top. They're gulping for air. Ted remembers, Precious. I can call Precious. And he whistles to call Precious. So remember earlier when I compared Precious to Songbird? During my original watch, I had made a joke about Precious drowning the same way Songbird does.
It's okay. It's alright. I'm here. Just let go.
And when I saw that that could very well happen, my jaw fucking dropped, man. Like, that was insane. Unfortunately, Precious doesn't drown like Songbird does. She just kicks down the door and they all get out. But it almost happened for a second, and I'd like to hold on to that. Around this time, Tabitha's also finished her performance, and she's really sad and runs off stage because no one clapped for her because, surprise, surprise, they're all brainwashed from taking pictures with Cutie Snap. It shot a mind ray into their brains, and I guess that did something. And so, as Tabitha's outside crying, Tina walks up to comfort her and, you know, talks to her and reveals the mission and reveals that she's a boss baby. I feel like Tabitha should have had a more intense reaction to this, because the way it was is Tina walked up behind her and she was like, don't worry, it's all okay. And Tabitha just kind of, oh, you're a boss baby. Guys, what? And so while that's happening, Tim and Ted are rushing over to the server room because at this point, destroying the server is the only way that they can stop the fucking brainwash rays or whatever, they never specify what this is, from being broadcast out into the world and hypnotizing every adult in the land. Oh no! And so the servers are hidden in the top of this like tree statue. And so they start climbing the tree, but Armstrong shows up behind them and he pulls them off and he's playing around with them. And when all's at its darkest, Tina and Tabitha show up. Tina punches down the door, and she's wearing Armstrong's backup mech suit. And so, while Tina is brawling with Armstrong, Tim and Tabitha and Ted manage to all climb up into the server room, and they're at the computers, and Tabitha has pulled up the shutdown screen, but Armstrong has made it up just behind them, and Tina's right behind him, and now they're fighting in the server room. And while they're fighting, the timer's ticking, and I think it gets to the point where there's like 10 seconds left, and while that's happening, Tim and Tabitha create a Pepsi and Mentos reaction, and that explodes and destroys the servers and destroys the mech suits that Tina and Armstrong are operating. And so everyone gets pushed out of the tree, and as they're falling, Ted and Tim transform back into their adult forms, and they catch their daughters, and, you know, happy ending, right? And so after all this is done, a bunch of parents, including Carol, walk in here. And she says to Tim, "Wow, I'm genuinely surprised that you made it." Which is like, dude, divorce his ass. If you're genuinely surprised that he made it to his own daughter's big holiday recital, divorce him. And with that, the Templetons leave the Acorn Institute and they all head home to celebrate Christmas together. Tina reveals to Tim that BabyCorp was actually never involved in defeating Armstrong, and that their mission all along was to improve Tim and Ted's sibling relationship? Which begs the question, what the fuck were they gonna do about Armstrong? But hooray, I guess it's Christmas. As the credits begin to roll, we see Armstrong's walk of shame back to his house. He opens the door, his parents look down and they pick him up and they hug him, and that's the end. It's finally over. God bless DreamWorks Animation. Now y'all remember what I established in part 1 about babies having to be from BabyCorp to have the hyper-intelligence of a boss baby? So clearly this movie took that and threw that out the window. Or did it? I have a conspiracy. I have a thought that makes it all make sense. Am I a fool for theorizing legitimately on the Boss Baby 2, the second one, The Family Business? Yeah! Did I also write a better plot than DreamWorks Animation when I came up with this? Yeah. So you're gonna sit here and listen to it. Now very clearly, Armstrong's not a baby from BabyCorp. We know this. We also know that there's no way all the babies in the Institute can be from BabyCorp too. So how the hell did Armstrong get so powerful? How did he ascend to false godhood at just 17 months old? Transhumanism is defined as the belief that a member of the human race can evolve past what evolution meant for them with the use of science and technology. Think like cybernetic limbs, eyes that can zoom in, a robotic heart that never stops beating. All of those are examples of transhumanism. And I'd argue that the babyfication formula is too. I mean, hey, it all checks out. Heightened intelligence, heightened capabilities, and a body that's been pushed to such a point that an argument can be made for, is this even human anymore? So how the hell did a 17-month-old learn enough about transhumanist ideals to consciously ascend humanity? Personally, I don't think he did. We know the formula doesn't only work on boss babies because we saw Tim de-aged too. So if the formula works on Tim, a middle-aged human man, what's to say it doesn't work on any middle-aged human man? You know, one who's lived long enough to actually witness the effects of the things Armstrong claims to care about, like global warming. Who's to say Armstrong himself isn't a false god born of his own effort? In fiction, whenever people discover a race of deities exist, they usually freak out like a lot. But then, as they accept the existence of these deities, the focus becomes something else. It becomes, how can I use this for my own advantage? Sometimes simply obeying these gods works, but sometimes the human has to take matters into their own hands. To better understand what I believe Armstrong's quest for godhood in the form of becoming a boss baby was like, let's take a look at one of my other favorite pieces of media involving supernatural babies. Bloodborne. In Bloodborne, there are 3 possible endings where the player character ascends to varying levels of godhood. Ending number 1 is achieved by allowing the Dream Realm's current immortal overseer to kill you. You then wake up in the normal world and never have to follow the orders of him again. In the Boss Baby universe, this would be comparable to witnessing a boss baby but then allowing BabyCorp to erase your memories of it locking you forever out of godhood. Ending number 2 is achieved by killing the Dream Realm's current immortal overseer and taking his place. You're not exactly a god, but you're real close, and you can commune with them. However, you don't have their full power, and you never will. In the world of the Boss Baby, this would be something like Tim's situation, where he witnessed the Boss Baby, he didn't let Baby Core wipe his memory, and he remembered the Boss Babies. So if he really, really needs to, he can get in contact with the Boss Baby, but he'll never be one himself. Ending number 3 is commonly regarded as Bloodborne's true ending, and ending 3 is achieved the same way as ending 2, except you have to be carrying a certain item. And if you're carrying that item, when you defeat the Immortal Overseer, basically the Watcher of the Watcher, the Immortal Overseer of the Immortal Overseer, descends from the moon, and you have the opportunity to fight that creature yourself too. And if you manage to defeat them, you are born anew as a baby god. Now to achieve this in the Boss Baby world, you'd need to witness a Boss Baby, avoid having your memory of it erased, and then manipulate your Baby Core connections into giving you some of the formula, or just fucking break into Baby Core and steal it yourself. Which is what I believe Armstrong did. Let me lay down my evidence. Alright, 1. Armstrong doesn't look like a normal baby. Now there's a decently wide variety of babies in these 2 movies, and absolutely none of them look like Armstrong. Yeah, in real life, babies have wrinkles, but in this universe, clearly they don't. You know who does? Armstrong. You know who else does? Middle-aged man, bitch! Maybe the formula didn't fully reverse Armstrong's age. 2. Armstrong's parents are both like really old. Sure, men can technically produce fertile sperm for their entire lifespans, but the husband's wife looks just as old as him. I mean, I guess Armstrong could have been adopted, but adoption has never been brought up once in the Boss Baby lore, and I doubt they're gonna start that now. When Armstrong arrives at their house at the very end, they pick him up because he's a baby that looks like their old baby. Of course they feel inclined to take care of him. If this couple had really been missing their baby for over a year, when they found that baby, there would be tears. There would be emotional devastation. There's none of that. So I think we can conclude he's just some baby. 3. Armstrong says that his parents are child psychologists and they exposed him to 10,000 hours of everything important, and that's why he's super intelligent. But I feel like this is pretty easy to disprove because that's not how babies fucking work. Now some people might argue cartoon logic against this, but I direct their attention to the Baby UN. The Baby UN is supposed to be the smartest of the smart. You know, Armstrong's best babies. And they still babble and cry and repeat words just like babies are supposed to. Armstrong doesn't do that. The most Armstrong is able to do is physically train the babies to be ninjas. He can't improve their intelligence. Either Armstrong isn't a human, or he isn't a human baby. 4. This one's a little abstract, but it's a part of the movie I genuinely enjoyed, which is rare. When Tim and Ted originally astral project into Baby Core along with Tina, they're surrounded by this pink and blue glow. Now when I first saw this, I thought it was just some funny little cis people joke about gender reveals. But props to the Boss Baby team because it comes back and it's important. So at a certain point during the holiday performance, Armstrong sees all the parents are hypnotized and he ejects himself out of his adult neck so he can dance around in his baby form. It's a terrifying scene and I don't recommend watching it, but the important part isn't the dancing, it's the lighting. And if you look at the lighting, you'll notice, what's that? Pink and blue rim lighting. This is it. This is the moment that I believe signifies Armstrong's full departure from humanity. He's finally a boss baby. He's finally achieved it all. He's got the baby form, the heightened intelligence, the complete control over every adult in the audience. And there he is, a boss baby, a false god bathed in false light. Knowing this, here's the Armstrong timeline as I see it. So, you know, the correct way? In the mid-2000s, a baby is born to a couple of child psychologists, a Mr. and Mrs. Armstrong. He has a very happy childhood, but due to his parents' occupations, He's pushed to always be the best in school. And because of this, he becomes real smart and he graduates from high school early. And he goes to college at an Ivy League school and he earns the title of doctor. All the while, the effects of climate change are getting worse and worse. But because of his lack of money and status, there's nothing Armstrong can do about it. After starting his career as a child psychologist in his mid-20s, Armstrong runs into a now teenaged Francis E. Francis, former CEO of PuppyCo. Francis tells him all the shit about the boss babies and BabyCore and PuppyCo and the de-aging formula. And of course Armstrong doesn't believe him because that's fucking stupid. But it sticks there in the back of his head. And as the years pass, and Armstrong watches the world get worse and worse, and everything sinks into a slump, and everything's on fire, and everything's flooding, he gets desperate. And he starts to look in to Francis E. Francis's claims. He scours through PuppyCo documents. He spends years on it until he finds it. Proof of BabyCore's existence. And this is the ultimate opportunity for him. So he spends a decade scouring through the ruins of PuppyCo facilities until he finds a bit of that de-aging formula. And he studies that shit, and he replicates it. And once he realizes that this is a viable option, he starts getting his shit in place. He starts buying land. He starts getting investors. He proposes this school. And once everything's finally been laid out, 40-something-year-old Armstrong downs the formula, reverting himself to a baby. Over the next 17 months, Armstrong rolls out his Acorn Institutes and begins indoctrinating children into his New World Order, bringing us to the start of Boss Baby 2, the second one. Do I believe this was intended? God, no. I don't think the Boss Baby team is smart enough to write a story like that. But do I think that it's a more cohesive plotline that fits well with both of the movies? Hell yeah! So I guess what I'm trying to say is, hire me, DreamWorks. Jokes aside, thank y'all for watching my first real video. Big props if you made it this far. I know I was talking about some crazy shit. Full disclosure, I was supposed to drop this like 3 weeks ago, but then I got sick, and then I got injured, and then I had to see family. I'm fine now, except for my pride. But point being, I don't want to make any grand statements about when I'm gonna return next. So expect more at an indeterminate time. Good riddance, lads. See you next time.